Hello everyone. In this session, we'll understand inheritance. In a normal English language, what do you mean by inheritance? It's something like whatever the parent possesses, that property can be accessed to its child too. So if parent is having some good thing, then it can be, it is inherited to its child. In a very similar way, if there is some disease with, the parent, then that disease is also going to be inherited to its child. So that is, a kind of inheritance in a normal English language. In normal case, there is parent-child relationship, but when we deal with object-oriented programming language, we have classes. So here we have parent class and we have a child class, and the relationship between parent class and child class is known as inheritance. Okay. So what I mean is, let's say I have a class parent. Okay, this is I'm calling as a class parent. So this is my parent class, and inside this class parent, this is my class parent. So inside this class parent, I have one method, that is public void test. I have this method, and let's say I also have some implementation inside this method. So let's say I have implementation here. Now the thing is, I want to access this test method or the implementation of the test method in some other class. How can I do that? Let's say I have a class child, another class, okay, class child, and this child needs to access this test method. How can I do that? Is a simple thing. Just copy it and paste it. But the thing is, until and unless I can copy is if I give the public access modifier here, okay, and then I can copy it. So the idea here is, if I do this copying and pasting again and again, this is not a good idea, right? It is wasting your time. It is not a flexible and reliable way to do coding. Also it increases the complexity of your coding structure, right? So this is not a good idea. What we can do instead of doing this, we can use something called as inheritance. Inheritance is the syntax of inheritance is something like that. So I will remove this that we copied it. The syntax is simple. I have a child class, that means my child can inherit every property of parent. So I'll use colon and I will call the parent class. Now you see, parent, everything that parent possesses, now child can also possess. Okay, so now if I want to access this test method, I can directly access it, right? I can directly access it. I don't need to write the complete, this complete structure. I don't need to write. I can access this test method over here, no problem. With the help of instance of a class, I can do that, no problem. Okay, so this is, the simple inheritance thing. So parent is at the higher level of, it is having the higher level in the class hierarchy. So this is at the higher level, and then this is at the secondary level after the. So how does this class hierarchy works is like parent and then child and then child and then child. So okay, so parent is at the higher level in the class hierarchy. There is also most important part of OOP is reusability of code. So inheritance supports reusability, and why it supports, you see what we are doing in here is we are copying and pasting here, right? In the previous phase we had seen that public void test, we just copy it, paste it over here. So that increases the redundancy in the code, right? Again and again copying and pasting, so it gives you the redundancy of code, but that is not a good idea. So that's why we are using inheritance. So inheritance supports the reusability. What do you mean by reusability? Write one time, okay, write the code one time and again and then use it again and again, right? No need to copy, just give the reference. So we have a public void test written one time, and now I just need to call this inheritance property, because inheritance supports reusability. I can access this test method without writing the complete code. I can access with the simple reference of inheritance. So let's see in the Visual Studio how can we do that. So I have this this project over here. I'll increase the font a little bit. Okay, So now I have a class program. So instead of class program, let me take it as parent.cs. I have a class parent here. So inside this class parent, I will take two methods, that is display1 and display2. So let me create this public void display1, and inside that display1 I'll print something. So let me print this console dot writeLine. I'll print that this is display1 method from parent class. Okay, I'll print this, and now again I will take another method, that is display2. So I'm just copying it and pasting it, change the things, display2 from parent class. So I have display1 and display2 in my parent class. Now I need a child class to make my inheritance in a working mode. So I need to add another class here. So I'll go to my project, add a new class. I'll call this class as child. So this is my child.cs. Here, increase the font a little. Okay, so this is my child class. Inside this child class, I'll create static void main, and inside that I need to call my display1 and display2 from parent. So if you see, without inheritance, can I do that? No. See, if I try to write program, I need an instance, right? I need to call this, sorry, no. So if you can see, I can call the display1 and display2 with the parent class. And why I can call this, you see, as I told you that parent is at the higher level in the class hierarchy. It can be accessible anywhere, right? I can access this. And why I can access this, keep that in mind, that this is class parent, and default access modifier of any class is internal. Internal can be accessed anywhere in the same project. So I am right now in the same project, so I can access this parent and I can call the parent display1, display2. It's all about, parent class. Parent class can be called anywhere with the help of instance of that object. I can call any method with the help of parent instance, right? So this is possible, but I need to call those methods, this display1 and display2, with my child instance of that class. So now if I write child c equals to new child here, if I do that, c dot, you see there is no method. I cannot access anything. I cannot access the parent display1 and display2 from my child class. I cannot access. I'd create one instance of my child class, but I cannot access the parent display1 and display2 methods. I cannot do that without inheritance. But now you apply the inheritance. You will see I can access those methods. C dot, you see, display1, and in a very similar way I can access c dot display2. This is possible, right? But with inheritance only. But if you go for the, like parent directly, if you call the parent p equals to new p, new parent, actually with the help of p dot you can access any method that is declared over here. You can access, because parent is at the higher level. Okay, that parent class is at the higher level in the class hierarchy, so you can access this, no problem. But the thing is, that is not an inheritance. Inheritance is child want to access the parent methods. That is the thing, not parent want to access his method. What we are doing over here, this is like this, parent p equals to new parent p. Keep that in mind. What we are doing over here, p dot, is like parent is calling his method only. That is possible, that is easy. But we want that child want to access the parent method display1 and display2. That is our intention. So that is not possible without inheritance. If I remove this, if you make this, there is a compile time error. You can see what it is saying is that there is yeah. So are you missing or using a directive or an assembly reference? What he is saying that it doesn't contain a definition for display2, right? So how can I do this? Is with the help of inheritance. If you want to call the parent method with child instance of that class, I can use inheritance parent. Now if I do that, and if I run this, it will build successfully. If I want to print this, I can use console dot writeLine and I can print this. So I'll just copy this, paste it. Oh sorry, this is not, I don't need to print it because it is already printed. I'm so sorry for this. Yeah, I just remove this thing. It is already printed actually. I had already used console.writeLine. So now if I run this, it will run precisely. Okay, so display 1 from parent class and display 2 from parent class. Now this is the inheritance that normally you all know if you had done your object oriented programming language. Now there is one more thing that we need to understand in inheritance. Let's say I have one method here in my child class. I'm creating one method in my child class. Okay, I have a method public void display 3, and I will write console.writeLine display 3 method from child class. Okay, I have a method in my child class. Now here is this thing. If I want to access this display method from my parent class, will that be possible? It is not possible actually. So see, let me try to create static void main method here in my parent class. I'm creating this main method in my parent class. You can see this is my parent class and I'm creating static void main in my parent class, and I want to access this display 3 method in my parent class. So I will use parent. Let me try with my parent class and then we will see with a child class. Okay, parent p equals to new parent. We want to access this with the help of the parent class. So we are creating the instance of that. Okay, p dot. See, there is no way we can access the child class method. We cannot access the display 3. You can see IntelliSense is not showing you that. See, display 1 and display 2. So vice versa is not possible. You can access any method of the parent from child class. That is possible, and that we had seen over here. Okay, that we had seen. But if you want to do vice versa, if there is a method declared in the child class and if you want to access in your parent class with the help of parent instance of the class, you cannot access it. But now if you go for child here, child child c equals to new child, and if you want to access this, that is possible because it's child method, right? It can be accessed, it's possible, but it is not possible to call it with the parent instance of that class. This is not possible, and that we had seen. This is the the inheritance that we had seen. I hope you understand it. Thank you so much. One more thing that we need to see over here is, what do you think? What is this? Child C, new child C. This is basically nothing but, this is, sorry, not this one, but here. What do you think? What is this? Child C, new child, versus this is basically, see this child and this child. What do you think? What is this? This is nothing but constructor, right? The same, class name as the constructor name. So this is basically a default constructor. Now when you do something called as instance of a class, basically when you do that, this line of code, it goes to the implicit constructor that is there in the structure of this code. Implicit constructor, you cannot see it, but it first goes to the implicit constructor if there is in the code. If there is no implicit constructor, or if there is any explicit constructor, then it goes to that explicit constructor, call that explicit constructor, then it comes to the parent class, and then whatever the method is there, then it will call it. So right now in the parent class there is no constructor. By default there is one that is known as implicit constructor, and if you want to see it, you can see it. See, if I go for aldism, and if I open the open this inheritance demo one, that is my project, and if I open that, you will see one constructor by default that is there. You see, this is okay, this is your constructor basically. This is, sorry, this is my child class and this is my parent class. You can see this is my method 1, method 2, and above that there is constructor. So this is implicit constructor, and it is this this child class, it is calling that constructor first of all, and then it goes to display 1 and display 2, and then it is printing that. So to see that, let's create one explicit constructor, and let's say how it works. So I will use one constructor here, public, and I will take parent, same name, and I will write console dot write line, and I will say constructor from parent class. I'll write that, and let me just delete this static void main from here. And now if I go to my child class, and now if I want to run this, if I run this, what do you think, what will be the output? The output is will going to be, you know, proceed as, first it will give me that this constructor, first it will call this constructor from parent class, and then it goes to my display 1 and display 2. So let me just run this. You can see constructor from parent class and then display 1 and display 2. Now in the parent class itself, if I take another you know, this constructor, let me take that another constructor, and if I call constructor 1 from parent class, and if I run this child again, you will see, oh, there is one error. Oh yeah, I have a 2 constructor basically. I cannot do this, right? So yeah, so basically if there is another constructor here, it will print that. So it goes to parent, and then it goes to parent, I mean the next constructor, and it will print the constructor from parent class. So this is like a constructor, then again constructor, and then the whatever the method you are having. So method display 1, method display 2, something like that. And if there is property as indexer, then it will print that too. So the hierarchy is like, first it comes the constructor, then it goes to the, you know, whatever you had declared, like methods and methods. Okay, so let me have one constructor over here too, so to understand it in a quite manner. So I have a public child, and if I take console dot write line, and if I print this constructor from child class, if I do that, and if I will print that, you will see after calling this constructor from parent class, it comes to child and it will print this constructor, and then it goes to the display 1 and display 2. Okay, so let me run this. See, constructor from parent class, then it comes to the child class. So constructor, then it calls to the another constructor, then it goes to the parent class to show the display 1 and display 2 method. Okay, so this is your inheritance. That is also very important. So keep that in mind, that if you are having any explicit constructor here, then make sure that it is accessible to the child class. If it is not accessible, then there will be a problem. Even if there is an implicit constructor, keep that in mind, that access modifier is, you know, specified in a good manner. So if I write here private, I cannot access this parent, this constructor in my child class. Now if I run this, it will give you an error. See, inheritance demo 1 parent is inaccessible due to its protection level. So you cannot run that. So keep that in mind, that your constructor is somehow accessible to the child class. So again, if I make the public, and if I run this, it will run. See, okay. Okay, so this is your inheritance. Now let's come to the next topic, that is multi-level inheritance. What do you mean by that multi-level inheritance? Structure is something like, you know, calling, it's something like one inheritance to another inheritance and another inheritance to another, something like this. Class A I have, and then inside that class A I have class B I have. It is inheriting from A. this is my child B, and this is the parent coming from here. Okay, then I can use class C, which is inheriting from B, like this. The chain of inheritance. So that's why it is multi-level. Level 1, level 2, level 3 is inheriting from the parent class, right? So this is my multi-level inheritance. And how can I basically work with my multi-level inheritance is basically, let's do this actually. So let me go back to my Visual Studio, and let me just delete this parent and delete every entry from here. Okay, so inside this parent class, let me call it as A, class A. This is my, let me just let it be parent. So now this class parent, I have public, and then I will take as string, and I will call it as parent. This is parent method. Let me call this as parent method, and then inside this I will return. I will say this is my parent class. Okay, I will call this. I'll say it like that. And now I'll take another class, that is my class child B, inheriting from parent. Then inside that I will again use public string child B method, and I'll again return it. So return, I'll say this is my child B class from parent class. Okay, and then in a very similar way I'll write class child C, inheriting from child B. Okay, inside that again I will do the same thing. So I'll just copy this and I will paste it over here. So this is my child C method. So this is my child C, this is my child B class. Okay, this is my child C class from parent class. So I'll call that. So I need to call that, right? So this is my child B class from parent class, and this is my child C class from child B class, that is child B parent class, because for child C, child B is the parent, and for child B, parent class is parent, right? So this is the way. Okay, now I need to call all these methods. So in my child C, because child C is the child of child class, right? So I need to call all these methods in my last child. So I will use the static void main method here in the last class, and I will call using my child C class instance. So child C equals to new child C, and I will call C dot here. You see, it calls every method that it belongs. See, first it called parent method, then it calls C dot, you see, child B method. Okay, so this is inheritance, and then level 1 inheritance, and then I'll go for next level inheritance, that is child C method that it is having. Okay, so you can see it is calling each and every method from my child class. So if I want to print this, I can use console, because this is returning, so I can do this, right? Console, and then in a very similar way, let me just copy this and just paste it over here. And so this is basically a multi-level interface. If I run this, you will see this is my parent class, this is my parent class. That means I'm printing right now the class parent. then child B class from parent class. That means I am actually getting this method child B from my child B class from parent class. Okay, and then in the next part I have this is my child C class from child B class, and I get this is my child C class from child B parent class. So this is nothing but it is your multi-level interface. So this is an example of multi-level inheritance. It's exactly in the same manner we had seen. So this is class A. I have class A in the form of parent class, then class B I have in the form of child B, and this is my parent. Okay, and then child C is in the form of child C, and this is again the form of child B. So we had done the multi-level interface inheritance, and this is the example of that. I hope you understand it. Okay. Now one more thing that we need to see over here is something called as multiple inheritance. So instead of now multi-level inheritance, I want to do something called as multiple inheritance. Now what does it mean? So let's say I have a class A here, and then instead of class A, now I have class B, which is inheriting from class A. Okay. Now let me have class C. I have class C, which needs to be inherited from class B as well as class A. Well, I want to do something like this, but this exact thing is somehow not possible. It is not possible, in C# or in object oriented. This is somehow not possible. You are accessing, here in the class C, that means child class, you are accessing the classes B and class A in multiple. So this is multiple inheritance. Okay, we are accessing exactly at the same time class B and class A, multiple inheritance. But C# doesn't support multiple inheritance. Instead it supports something called as interface. So now instead of class A, so instead of this class, I need to write interface. Okay, instead of class B, I need to write interface B. Now I can access this A and B inside my class C. This is now possible with the help of interface. Now for an example, now what are the certain criteria that you need to take care while using this interface? Basically, what exactly we can do with interface is the first thing that you need to see over whenever you are working with interface is something like, it is just like an class. An interface contains properties, methods, delegates, or events, just like in class, or let's say just like in struct. Your interface contains properties, methods, events, and delegates. But keep that in mind whenever you are using interface uses only declarations and never uses any implementation. So whenever you use interface, it only be the declarations and never going to be implementation. And what is a declaration and implementation? It's something like public int d. This is when we do something like this, or let's say public void display like this, this is basically, this is basically your declarations. This is basically a declaration, or maybe it's something like, this is basically method, but something like this, public entity, and this is your declaration, right? But when you do something like this, this is going to be your implementation. This is going to be your implementation. So interface only uses declarations and not the implementation. So this is not possible. Instead of that, we can use this. So we have to declare only and not implement anything, right? So interface members are public by default. So this is going to be public by default, and they actually don't, allow any explicit access modifier. You cannot use any explicit modifier. If you try to do that private somehow, then it is somehow, it is not going to be, a protection level thing. If you provide private, then it is somehow impossible to fetch this interface over here. So that's why we use public entity. Okay. Now let's create this interface in our Visual Studio and try to get a simulation so that we can understand. Okay, so this is my parent, and we had seen this this multi-level inheritance, and instead of that we will try to simulate something called as interface. Okay, interface, and which is multiple inheritance. Okay, so first I need to create interface A, and inside that, you see, this is my interface, and I will use only declaration. So I'm taking void test. This is my declaration. You see, only declarations. If I do something like this, it will give me kind of error. You see, interface members cannot have a definition, so you cannot implement anything here. So that's why we will only use the declaration. By default, the access modifier is public, but if you do something like private, if you run this, it will give you an error. Element defined in a namespace cannot be explicitly declared as private, protected, or protected internal. That is also not possible. So your access modifier should be public. Okay. Now in a very similar way, I will take another interface that we need here. See, you can see. Okay, so I will take interface B here. interface B, and inside that also I will take void, and this is going to be my test test1. Okay, this is also going to be my declaration. So this is declaration, also this is declaration. Okay, now you have declared the things, but we don't have any implementation for my test and test1 method. Where should I give the implementation? For that reason I need a child class where I can implement this declaration. So that's why I need my child class. So let me create my child class, public class C, where I will use the multiple inheritance. So I will call A and then I will call B. This is possible. This is possible, right? But instead of that, see, if I use class A and class B, and if I try to do this thing here, A and B, if I call that, if you run this, it will give you an error. And what is the error? See, first error is cannot have multiple base classes. This one. So you cannot do that. And also then it is showing you that inconsistent accessibility. Base class inheritance demo 1a, that means the project, is less accessible than class inheritance demo1.c. So this is multiple inheritance is not supported over here. Classes cannot do this. Instead of this, if you want to use multiple inheritance, then you need to use interface. So that's why we are using interfaces. Okay, now this is possible and you can easily run it. Now in this child class, we have to implement this test method and test1 method. So how I gonna do this? Call the method public void test. Keep that in mind that the method name should be same. Whatever you had declared here, test method, the same name should be there. Otherwise it will also give you an error. See, if I use t, it will give you an error. See what it says, that does not implement interface member test, right? What it's saying, that you have test method but you are not implementing anywhere because he is not finding this method test because you had changed the letter, case sensitive. So if you again make a t, it will give you not error. Right now it is giving you an error of test1 but not of test. Okay, see, if I again create the implementation of my test1 method, it will not give you an error, test1. So this is it, and if I run this, there is no error. Yeah, it is just saying there is no static method, and that is not an error. We will resolve that, but is not giving you any error of the implementation. So you have declarations over here in your interfaces, because interfaces only needs declarations, no implementation. That's why we have only declarations here, declarations only here. But where to implement this declaration? In our child class. See, this is our child class, so we are providing the implementation of test and test1. Inside this I will write console dot write line, and let me just call it as like this is from class or interface A, and let me just copy this, let me just paste it over here, and this is from interface B. Okay, now let me take one more class here. It's going to be my class, let's say program. So class program, and then inside that I'll create my static method. So static void main, and inside that I try to call those things. So I will use, what will I use? This child class, because everything inside that is implemented, right? So I don't want to use this program. I want to use this class C. This is my child class because everything has been implemented there. So I need to access that in my main method. So I will create the instance of my child class. So what is the name of the child class? C. Oh, I'm sorry. This is C, and then CC equals to new. See, I actually should take good name, but let me just go with this. Okay, CC dot. You can see I can access now test. I can also access CC dot test1. This is basically with the help of interface you can use multiple inheritance. See, with one child class you can access this test and test1. If you run this, it will give you, see, this is from interface A and this is from interface B. So what exactly is this? Just like in class and structure, interface contains properties, method, event, and delegates. Interfaces uses only declarations and never uses any implementation. But for this declaration you need implementation, right? The way to give this implementation in your child class. See, you need child class where you can insert your declarations implementation. Okay, there is so basically if I say here also one more important point here, we had seen that class can inherit multiple interfaces, just like class C colon A and B. Keep that in mind. These A and B are interfaces, okay, and not the classes. But classes can inherit multiple interfaces, but it cannot inherit multiple classes, like class C colon class A class B. Not possible. Not possible. Okay. Here these are, I'm sorry, here this A and B are interfaces. So I'll write interfaces, or interface B. Okay. Okay. So this is the thing that we had seen. Let's get back here and let's understand one more important point. So let's say I have this interface A and interface B. I can do something like this too. From interface B, I can inherit interface A. So I'll write A. It can be done. I can do this too, and I can access. I already access. This test and test1. I can possibly do that. But let's say if I somehow, if I comment it out over here, this is my test1, and if I try to run this, it will give you an error. What it says, does not implement interface member inheritance. You have the declarations in the interface, but you don't have any implementation. So it will directly give you a kind of compile time error that does not implement the interface member. Which member? Test1. So here we have test and test1 declared, but only test is been implemented. Okay, this is implementation. Only test is been implemented, but test1 is not. But now if I uncomment it, and if I try to run it, it will run it. Okay, so succeeded, no problem. So this is basically the thing that we had seen, and I hope you understand it in a quiet manner. Thank you so much.